Hello everyone, and welcome to a 12 by 12 scrapbook layout process where a few of us from the creative design team have decided to have an impromptu collab to scrapbook our high tea that we had at the Empress Hotel in Victoria on Vancouver Island. Now, Julie and Chelsea have already scrapbooked these photos, so they're a bit ahead of the game. I will link to Julie's video in the description below, and Chelsea will be posting hers on Instagram, so I'll have a link to that as well as links to the rest of us on our YouTube channels, so you can check out what we do. I can't wait to see what everybody comes up with. I may be the only one that doesn't use some floral die cuts on this page, but I am bringing florals in somewhere else on this with my papers. So you can see I've printed all my photos off. This was Andrea's pick or must do for our trip that we did to Vancouver. So we all got a little bit fancy and went off for our high tea and really enjoyed the experience. The service was wonderful. You can see the food here. It's very traditional high tea. We started off with the scones because they were the hottest, and then went to savoury, and then enjoyed the delicious desserts. So it doesn't look like there's a whole lot on the plates, but by the time you've finished everything, you are very, very full. Now, I have printed one of my photos as a 6x4 as a collage of all the girls with their teacups here. I really love these cute little poses that they all had. Didn't particularly love the photo of me, so I didn't print that one, but I do love this one of Julie and I looking at something on her phone. I really can't remember what we were checking out. And of course, we've got our group shots. Now, originally I was going to put these up here like this because this is all of us outside before we went into the Empress. And it was a bit hard to take the photos because the sun was right behind the building, and we were going to take another one when we came out, but we forgot. But the colours of this going across here are a little bit too matching, and I've got Andrea in her gorgeous hot pink shirt here. And these photos are just right next to each other. So just for aesthetics, rather than having everything in order of how the day progressed, I am going to change them around like this. I think I may bring this one down just to vary things up a little bit, and that way I can put a title here or a title here and do some journaling. Normally when I do my journaling, I like to have it at the base of a page rather than at the top. So maybe I will do it this way so that my title can go on the left page and my journaling on this one. So now that I've got the bones of this all worked out, I had a look through my pattern papers, and there is this gorgeous Nature's Sweetness 12 by 12. It's a specialty designer series paper from Stampin Up. And I have used a couple of sheets of this. I think I might need to order another pack because I really do love this text here. You can see there is a gorgeous brown design on the back of here, which would actually go quite well, but I don't have enough of it. So I'm just going to put that to the side. So Andrea is holding here all the teas that we could pick from, and we selected some black teas and some herbal teas to try out, and the tea just kept coming. So I think what I'm going to do, I hope this is not shining too much so you can see the gold foil on here. I actually really love this pattern, and I think the leaves and the florals on here are going to work really well with these photos. So I think I'm definitely going to use this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a whole sheet, but I'm just putting my photos on top of it to see if I like the look of that. And I think this just ups the elegance of the layout because going out for high tea is considered a very fancy thing to do. So I really want to bring in some of this specialty paper. So I'm just going to have a look through this to see what else I might pick. There's this early espresso on here, which I think might work. I was considering using it, but when I put it up against the chocolates here and the rest of the photos, it's not quite the right brown. So I'm just going to put that one aside for now. I've already got quite a bit of gold on here. I think this is going to make it a bit too busy using this one. Just going to flip over and see what's on the reverse side. This would work quite well on these pages as well. I love all the leaves and the floral elements with that, but I've already chosen this one. You can see the patterns are very similar here. This one's just a little bit smaller in size with the images on here, but I really want to use the gold one. There's this gorgeous crosshatch one. I could cut a couple of these out to use as my embellishments, but this is one of my favourite papers in the pack, so I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. There's some gorgeous text here. That might make it a little bit too busy. I'm just going to leave that there. Oh, I do have another sheet of that. I didn't realise. I thought I'd used all of that up. That I've discounted already because of the colour. I actually quite love this. I know it's gold on gold, but just little strips of this might work really well just to frame out these papers. Oh, and there's this gorgeous script on this side as well. So I think I'm just going to use little pieces of this so that it doesn't overwhelm the papers. So maybe I won't use this one. I've got 2 pattern papers here. And when I was looking at this colour, I've gone to a close to my heart colour here called Mocha. And I think this is going to work really well with these photos. And a little bit of gold here. I think the Mocha is really going to bring out the depth in the photos. So that is working really well. So I'm just going to try and decide if I'm going to map my photos on Mocha. I think I will do that, and then cut some strips of this to put as base pieces. And then what I might do is actually fussy cut some of these elements out to layer up over the top of the photos. I went through my stamps. I've had a bit of a clear out of my close to my heart stamps as I accumulate more Stampin' Up stamps. So I don't actually have any tea service stamp sets left. I have the coffee set, but it doesn't quite go with this. I had a little look at it. I can use one of the coffee cups, but it's not dainty like the teacups that we have in our hands here. Definitely going to do some matting of my photos. What I might do is do strips of this so that I can mat my photos in one go. I only want a little bit of it showing. And I've printed my photos with a white border and then trimmed them down so they're not quite 6x4. So you can see they're just a little bit shy of 6 inches and 4 inches. So I might be able to put these on with a very fine mat around them. So how I normally do that is adhere these directly to the paper here and then trim around them rather than doing measurements. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to do all that, and then I'm going to work out how I'm going to lay out this paper. But what I think I might end up with is a little strip of this, more of the white base rather than all the gold. I don't want to overpower my photos. I might have them so they come a little bit off the edge here. So I'm thinking I might cut this piece at about 5.5 inches. And then I think a mat, I'm bringing these 2 in just to go over top. But you can see how that's going to look. And I love the depth of this mocha colour. It wasn't one of my favourites. Espresso was my favourite, and I love early espresso from Stampin' Up, but I don't have a colour like this in the Stampin' Up range as yet. I really want to use up some of my close to my heart cardstock. So I'm going to go away, do all my photo mats, do a little bit of trimming, and then I'm going to start positioning things on the page, thinking about my title, and then doing some embellishments. I love how this is going, and this is a fairly standard sort of a design to put a feature piece of pattern paper down and edge it off with strips. But I do love how this looks, and I am going to add some other things to it. I was thinking of bringing in this gold mercury vellum, but I think it might just be a little bit too much gold for me. Most of you know I'm fairly clean and graphic with my designs, but maybe I can cut a title out of this. So I will have to have a think about that. But what I do think this page needs is to have some of the white edges here inked. So I'm going to bring in my Mocha Close to My Heart ink and just go around all of the edges with my blending tool here. Now, I may not go around the inside edges. I'm just going to do these outside edges because this is going to go up against this piece here that I trimmed down. These are 3/8 of an inch. I decided I wanted a little bit more weight than a 1/4 inch strip, but a little less than 1/2 an inch. So I don't know why, it just seemed to sit better with me. But that's going to be pushed right up against the edge of this. So I'm just going to quickly ink the edges of the outside pieces of this. Just move my ink aside and just refit this to see if I think I need to bring in the Mocha ink on the inside edge. I don't think I do. I think I quite like it looking like this with the gold right up against it. I can turn this around just to have a little look to see if I like the depth that that brings. But I think in this case, I'm just going to leave one of these edges clear of ink. I've got my photos and the base part of the pattern paper all adhered down, and I've been playing around with the fussy cut pieces that I've done out of this sheet of paper here. Now, originally, I thought that I would ink the edges to sort of mimic what I've done around the edges of these larger pieces, but when I put it onto the paper, I wasn't quite sure that that was the look that I was going for. Originally, I thought I would do it so that it would separate itself from the pattern paper here if I popped it up on foam tape, but I think it's just making it look a little bit too cluttered. And I've got a title that I'm working on here from Classic Letters, and that has some leaf elements on here too. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is adhere some of these pieces down, tucking them in and around my photos. So I can put this one in here and I've got enough room for my title. Now, the reason why I'm calling it so fancy is because that for me, sometimes I say, oh, I've got fancy because I've thrown a scarf on. So this is a pashmina that I have. So I put that over the top of my t-shirt so that I would look a little bit fancier than walking in with a t-shirt on. So the girls all had their pretty blouses on, but me, I just put this around me and I thought that would do for the fancy part of the requirement for the dress code. So what I'm doing here is just putting in a few of these cut pieces. You can see I've cut the edge as well for this so that I can tuck things in and around. And I'm going to stamp directly onto the layout here. And if I make a mistake, I can always cut a sheet of cardstock and stamp onto that. I sort of wish these letters had a die cut to go with them because I do really like them. I think these leaves are going to go really well here. I'll just bring in where they've come from in a moment. I thought I would die cut some of the leaves to just break up a little bit of all the gold foil. And they are from the Changing Leaves set. You can get this in a bundle with an embossing folder that will emboss and die cut at the same time. And I have shown that on a previous video, so I will link that to that below. But I quite like these leaf elements here. I've used them before as well. I like the mixture of the fine detail with a little solid sprig in here as well. And then I'm wondering if it's going to be too much if I bring in these little leaf sections and stamp a couple of those, maybe in second generation mocha. I think the letters could actually be dressed up with some of these leaves if you wanted to stamp in a lighter ink and put these over top. Some of them are fairly straight, so you could put that over the top of an N like so. So I think that's what they're supposed to be used for. But I think it might work if I do a couple of little stamped elements coming out from where I'm going to put my clusters. But I'm just going to put the larger elements here. This one, I think I'm going to tuck this way. It's been cut near the edge of the paper. So I just want to have that coming out like this. I've still got room to put my journaling, and I might do a little bit of stamping just to add a little bit more detail to this. So I'll move this one off to the side. I'm going to start on my left page. Let me turn this over because I'm using a photopolymer stamp. I think I want to try it with the foam side here. And I've just got out some copy paper here, and I'm going to bring in mocha ink this up and see what I think of whether or not I want to do first or second generation. And I think the second generation is going to work quite well. So let's just go for this. Make sure I've got it inked up. Usually I flip this Versamat over so I've got a spongy surface there. So let's just do a little one coming out here. That's actually quite sweet. What I'm going to do though is mix these up a little bit so it's not all the same shaped leaf. I just need to season the stamp because I haven't used this before, and that looks really nice. I love this second generation inking. So that one can come out here. So I just have to make sure when I stamp off that I've got an even stamping off of the ink so that I can then use the second generation without it being too splotchy here. So this one, I didn't quite stamp it off properly. You can see I need to slow down. I'm getting excited about nearly finishing this page. So, and that's the arrangement for this bit. Then I'm going to adhere my pieces, and I'll do the other stamping on the other sections that I've got around here off camera. But I wanted to give you an idea of how this is going to work. I'm just going to use my dot roller from close to my heart here to adhere this down. The reason why I'm doing this and not glue is so that I can pick it up easily and change it if I think I need to move things around a little bit. So these two pieces here, I want to slide underneath this photo, and I want it to come out of this photo here. And then I've got this piece here that I'm going to put next, because I want to put some depth to this gold foil pattern here. Actually, I might have this one coming off around this side here. It can come partially over the plate and onto the gold foil pattern. I've got another little bit that's almost like a dandelion. So I'm just going to tuck that in so that it comes out of here, and then I can put these other two elements in and around just to balance out the stamping and the gold foil pieces. So this more solid one, I'm just going to put up here so that some of it goes over top of the photo. Tuck it in just a little bit closer. And then I've got this little sprig that I'm going to put on as well. So just a little bit of dot roller is enough just to secure these to the page, and I'm doing it on a piece of a silicone mat that I've cut down so that the adhesive that comes out of the side here just adheres to that mat rather than to my pieces. So this bit I want to put all the way up under here so that it's layered over top of this dandelion piece and peeking out from this section here. So I quite like that arrangement. What I could do is lift these up. I think I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put some dimensionals underneath that. What I love about Stampin' Up! Dimensionals is that there are small ones and larger hexagons here. They're ready for any size piece. So before I get ahead of myself, I'm just going to use this pick tool to get the piece off the back here, and then I'm going to slide that under so that part of these leaves here are going to be raised and the rest of it is going to be flat. Because I quite like just a little bit of dimension rather than this cluster all being totally flat. So this is why I like using a dot roller type adhesive. Don't like things to be permanent straight away. So I'm really hoping that we get a repositionable tape runner really soon. So that's that cluster done. So you can see I've got dimension here, but it's flat on this section, but then it's raised a little bit, and that just adds a little bit of texture to the page. I like the addition of these little bits of stamping, and then I can put my journaling in this part. So before I do the other clusters, I'm going to do my title. Now I'm going to work backwards here. I need to just move these out just a little bit so I don't stamp on them, but I'm going to adhere those down just like they are. I just don't want that sprig in the way. So I'm going to start with the Y, and I'm not going to stamp the whole title on camera for you, but I will start this off. Actually, I'm going to start with the C because I want it to be on the edge of the photo mat here. And if I start with the Y, I might put it down a bit too far. If I don't get this exactly straight, it's really not going to matter too much. And I do need to get my head over this. So I'm just going to let the ink absorb onto the paper, and I'm getting stamp images adhered to myself here. I'll just put that aside for the moment. I just need to clean these off, and then I can come in with my Y. I want to make sure I've got no ink around the edges here of my block, and stamp it off just to make sure that it's all inking up correctly. And then I'm going to line the Y up and stamp that down. So I'm going to continue putting my title down here. So I'm spelling backwards and I'm also stamping upside down. So let's hope I get all the letters in the right place. I've got my clusters all done. All I need to do now is to put on some gems. So I'm tossing up between two different types that I have from Stampin' Up. I've got the iridescent foil gems and the opal rounds assortment. The reason why they are like this when they're labelled is because I'm putting them into these envelopes here. It's just so that they all sit up and they are the same size, and I put them in a bin on my desk so I can easily flick through them. So I'm just trying to decide which ones I want. Now under this light you get a little bit of a pink tone to them, which teams in really nicely with Andrew's shirt here. On both of them there is that sort of iridescent type look to them. The opal rounds are actually quite nice. They're clearer. These ones have a little bit of a gold fleck in them. So I am thinking I'm going to use the iridescent foil gems. So I'm just going to lightly put that there, and then I'm going to very lightly put one of the opal rounds next to it. I think I like the clearer look with the fleck through it on the iridescent foil gems. So I'm going to sprinkle these around using a variety of the larger and the smaller size. There's two different sizes in these. Just have to decide where my third one's going because I like doing them in threes. And I've got my little cluster here taking up quite a bit of room. I don't want to put it here because it's sort of too much the same. So I'm going to put two closer together and then this one down here. So I think the bit of layered stamping behind these works really well. It's creating another level of dimension. So I've got stamping, die cuts and fussy cut pieces out. If you don't like fussy cutting, you could find a floral element that you could stamp and die cut. But I think it works really well to fussy cut out some of the elements here to continue the pattern paper and gives it a great continuity across the layout. So I'm just going to hold this up. This was such a fun time. We enjoyed every moment of this and all the delicious treats. I love these candid little moments that are caught by so many of us taking photos. Now, one thing I wanted to mention before I go is that the Close to My Heart products that Stampin' Up have brought across with them were previously only available to those that were either Close to My Heart makers, VIPs, or those that had their email registered with Close to My Heart. But Stampin' Up have now released those to everyone. So if you go into the Shop Now tab, you can drop that down and there is actually a little subcategory there just for CTMH. There are some gorgeous things there. I have just ordered, believe it or not, the floral dies that I think everyone else in this team has used on their layout for this high tea experience. I have a plan to use them with the Butcher Gardens that we went to. The tulips were out. There were so many flowers and the colors were absolutely amazing. So I have just ordered those today and you're going to want to click on all of these gorgeous ladies' YouTube channels because I know they've created some wonderful layouts of this high tea experience that we had. It was so fun to do this impromptu collab on this. I think we may do it again, I hope, because it got my photos onto the page. It's so fun to relive these experiences and tell the stories about the photos so that I can enjoy them in the future. Happy crafting, everyone, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.